welcome to Project Happy Hour. If you haven't grabbed a drink yet, make sure that you do so that you can join us to sit back and relax and chat some fun. If you've watched previous episodes, then you already know the scoop, but if not, you can always go to our YouTube channel on Prosperi YouTube page to check out our previous episodes. So the point of the show is to provide a virtual happy hour so that other workers of the industry can take a moment to check out of work and check in just to join us for some informal but educational fun. A lot of us are still stuck at home and it's a weird time right now. So until we can have a happy hour together, we will be doing our virtual happy hour. So the way that this works is we will have a hot word, and every time that our panelist says one of the hot words is another dollar that's added to our total tally that we are donating from Prosperi to the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. I'm pleased to actually say that after our last episode, we made a donation, and also as well, Jen Simon, who was our guest panelist from Microsoft, she made a personal donation, and then Microsoft also matched the donation. So we donated over $150 to the WHO's Solidarity Response Fund. So I'm really happy to share that news because we're happy to support a great cause in the race to find an effective vaccine. So I think it's time to get started. Let's meet our panelists. Obviously, we have an old face joining us. We have a new face. So I am pleased to introduce Larissa Sartorio, who is also my colleague from Prosperi. And our new face is Nadia Bondar, who is actually joining us all the way from Dubai. You can see it's the nighttime in the background. So I actually used to work with Nadia when I lived in Dubai. And because this episode is about talking about working remote and working with different geographical regions and time changes and just the challenges, I thought she would be a great guest panelist just because she works in HR and lives in Dubai, which obviously gives us a fun addition to our panelists. So how's it going, ladies?
Great. Going. Thank you.
Glad to have you guys. So what are you guys drinking?
I'm drinking another michelada, just as I did in the last episode. So it's beer, and I have a little bit of a lemon inside of the beer and salt and pepper around the glass.
I still have yet to try that. That's just sounds really innovative. What about you, Nadia?
Marisa, that sounds exciting. I'm just having my favorite tea in my favorite pot. It's right here.
Obviously, it's late at night for her, so she made an exception for us before she goes to bed. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I am having a Bon Vive. I've actually never had, I gotta turn it this way. I've actually never had this one before. It's another hard seltzer similar to the White Claw that I've had. But yeah, I'm giving this a try. It's a cranberry, 0 sugar. That's good because I've been trying to eat clean. Awesome. Okay, so glad everyone has their drinks. Do you guys want to see what the hot word is for today?
Yes, please.
All right, let's see what the hot word is. Today's hot word is remote.
Okay.
So every time you guys say the word remote is another dollar that we add to our total tally. So try and avoid saying it, even though it's bound to happen. So let's start with our first question, which is, what are some of the benefits you've seen from working with different global regions? And Nadia, I'll start with you on this one just because you're the one who really works with different, I mean, we're a global company, but you really, in Dubai, it's so diverse. So tell us, what are some of the benefits that you've seen?
Well, I don't know from where to start. I mean, it's really great opportunity, I think, for everyone who works abroad to find out about different cultures, about different mentalities, different nationalities. The world is so big, and only when you have opportunity to work with people from outside, you can learn more and you can expose yourself to something really wonderful, really different. You can obviously learn. You can, I don't know, you can just become a different person. It's actually what happened to me. I mean, nothing that I became a different person, but it changed me a lot. It changed a lot of my vision. the way I see people, the way I interact with people, the way I behave, let's say, just because it's such a great chance for everyone, to learn each other's cultures and to see each other from a bit of different angle. So I think it's really something great for everyone. Whoever has that opportunity, you can only benefit out of it.
Yep, I definitely agree. Go ahead, Larissa.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have too many experience in working with different regions, but I've lived abroad. I lived in the United States when I was younger, and I saw a life in 1 year living there as a foreign exchange student. And I can tell that we learn so much from other culture when you go deep into a culture. So I guess Nadia can see a lot of different cultures because she has been in different places for long. And actually, I want to hear a little more about Ray too. You lived in different places as well, right?
Yeah, so this episode is obviously very personal to me. I've lived in 3 different continents now. So United States, obviously, where I'm from, and I lived in Monaco in the south of France for pursuing higher education. And then after that, I moved to Dubai. So I was an expat for 5 years, and Dubai is where I met Nadia and worked with Nadia. So that's why we connected for this show. But yeah, just like Nadia was saying, you have access to different cultures, to different talent. For her, for an HR perspective, there's a lot of different talent. The talent pool becomes so much bigger when you include different global regions. For me, it's definitely, like you were saying, you blossom, you become a different person, you see new ways of doing things, you expand your vision, you definitely do kind of become a different person in many ways, just because you don't really see things from a smaller local perspective anymore. It's more with a global perspective. Obviously, one thing we've seen with COVID is the spread of technology and innovation, which is huge because everyone's jumping on Teams. Everyone's got to connect together, and obviously look at technology. I mean, I'm in the United States, Larissa, you're in Brazil, and Nadia, you're in the United Arab Emirates. So that's pretty cool that all 3 of us are in 3 different continents and in 3 different time zones right now, but we're all connected because of technology. So that's definitely a huge benefit that I think has been great with working with different regions. But yeah, I mean, do you guys have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, in my profession, particularly as you mentioned, Ray, yes, I'm in HR. It's something that I would say really gave me a good start up when I just moved to Dubai. I came to Dubai 7 years ago. I can't believe it's been 7 years. And I was just seeing everything from different perspective. Like now I can say when I'm interacting with people from different zones, from different cultural zones, let's say, it's so much easier. Just before I couldn't understand, properly, like, why they act in this way, why they're talking this way, or why they're interacting this way. So now it's much easier for me to read them. And I think it's really benefits me as HR and any human, who will be able, to learn that way. It really helps to interact with people. It really helps to understand them better. And it really helps to be happier. Just because when you know what people mean by certain actions, it makes a huge difference.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. We have been having so many meetings with people all around the world. So we see different ways of speaking, even the expressions that are being used, the way to communicate, the way to deal with situations. We can learn from all of that. So it's different ways to see and to speak and to deal with customers and everything. So yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think there's only benefits from it, and some days I used to say that sometimes I feel like I get to travel around the world 3 times in one day, because I get to email this client in Israel, and then email this client in Germany, and then email. And it's so fun because, I feel like even though I'm stuck at home, I'm also still kind of traveling, because it's exposure to them and being able to talk and do business with them. It's definitely been great to be connected with the world. Awesome. I love it. I love it. So let's move on to tell Meme about it. So we were talking about, I actually had to Google this one, the 25 time zones in only 24 hours. It's actually true because there's a lot of time zones that are only a half hour. I also experience this when I'm traveling or booking a meeting with clients in like India. There's some time zones over there that are only on the half hour. So yeah, there's 25 time zones in 24 hours. Mind blowing.
Yeah, it's when you get to think of it, it's kind of confusing. Then you explained.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. All right, let's go on to the next question. So we've talked about the benefits. So what are the difficulties to work remotely with different geographies? Because obviously there are benefits, but we're not going to lie, we're not going to sugarcoat it. There are challenges. It's not all easy. So what are some of the challenges or difficulties to work? We can't say the R word. I don't have a synonym for that. That's a hard one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry, Larissa.
Well, yeah, I can start with that one. First, I think the accents, probably you two are more used to the accents because you've lived around the world. Your ears are more adjusted to different accents. I don't know, I just guess, but it's a little bit difficult. And sometimes I'm afraid of like asking once and twice, like, can you repeat, please? I didn't understand. And just I try to explain that English is my second language. And of course, if I don't understand, I still have to ask for repeat. And maybe that's one of the most difficulties that I have. But I think it's just, a matter of interacting, communicating. And the second one is the time zones. People are, I don't know where, and have to figure out what is the time zone.
I just ask Siri, what's the current time in Dubai? And then she'll say, it is 9 p.m. And then I'm like, okay, now I can book the meeting. Yeah.
This is how it works. Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Honestly, yes, time zones, it's one of the challenges, that's for sure. And language barrier, Larissa, I absolutely understand you because when I came to Dubai for the first time, it was a big challenge for me. It was a big difficulty because when you live in such a multinational country, city, people come here from everywhere. And obviously everyone has different accent, right? So,
yeah.
And when you try to listen, sometimes you don't understand. And then you're trying to be polite because you need to understand. So you're asking the questions, right? So it takes some time, definitely, to get used to it. And but again, I think it's always, there are some benefits because more you interact with foreigners, with different cultures and nationalities, the easier for you to understand them. But this is definitely like those two you highlighted. These are mine as well.
Yep. Well, Nadia, so when I first met you, oh my gosh, it's been 3 years in Dubai and 4 years I've been gone, 7 years ago. So yeah, 7 years. Obviously your English has definitely improved over time, but it was still excellent when I met you, but your accent is very heavy. So Nadia's Ukrainian, if you can't tell. So her accent is very heavy. And sometimes in the beginning, it would be a challenge to understand, especially like if you're on the phone or on a Teams call and the connection's not good. Larissa and I had a challenge with that with a colleague in Kenya, not a colleague, a client in Kenya. And the connection was really bad and we could not understand anything because it was so muffly. And then her heavy accent, it was very challenging. But Nadia, my question for you is, does it offend you when someone asks you to clarify over, what if someone says 4 different times, what did you say again? Like for our viewers, does that offend you, or do you think it's okay to ask?
Well, that changed with the time as well. Honestly, 7 years ago when I came here, yes, I would get offended because to me it was like, oh my gosh, like my English is not good enough, so people don't understand me. So what am I doing here? So it really would put me down. Then now, after all these years of being here, traveling and interacting with different people, I'm absolutely fine because I know I can be in the same situation asking people to repeat again because I don't understand, and there is nothing wrong with that. So if someone asks me, I'm patient. I'm very patient.
Understandable. Well, I'm glad to know that we can clarify that. So it's always better to clarify anyways, instead of just assuming or acting like you do understand, because then that can cause miscommunication, you know? So it's really important to have clear communication. You guys talked about unaligned working hours. For me, sometimes Larissa and I have taken calls late in the evening because we have clients in Australia who are 14 hours ahead of us, 13 hours ahead of her. And so we have to take calls late in the evening so that it's their morning. We actually had a client last week who booked it at 7:30 in the morning, their time, 5:30 p.m. the night before our time. So it's unaligned working hours is definitely a challenge. I actually use a tool that's bookmarked on my browser that you put the current local time of where you want the meeting in your city, and then it'll tell you, you put in the other city, and it like matches the time so that I don't actually have to seek serious help. So those are just some of the difficulties that I was thinking of as well. But I think the main two are accents are really hard, and the unaligned working hours. That's always a challenge for sure. Which also, speaking of unaligned working hours, it's harder for us to have defined working hours because I don't necessarily work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 because, you know, sometimes I need to make a call to Australia in the evening, or I need to log in early in the morning because we have a client in India who needs to talk, you know, earlier outside of my working hours. So you also have to have flexibility, you know, and that can affect your personal life and other things going on outside of work. So that's another challenge as well with the different geographies. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or do you think we covered it?
I think we covered, at least from my side. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, let's move on to tell me about it. Oh, this is this is exactly what we were talking. Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yep, for sure. I mean, I've had this with Nadia before because obviously we keep in touch. And sometimes she's like, hey, she's 8 hours ahead of me and I'm, you know, getting my day started. And she's like, all right, good night, I'm going to bed. I'm like, dang it, man. It's so hard to keep up with my friendships and my friends overseas because we're so unaligned with the times. I love this. Next question. What is the best way? So we've talked about these challenges, the time zones, the accents, the cultures. What is the best way to adapt to these challenges?
Well,
we'll start with sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with that one again. As you were saying the last question, I think the main thing is flexibility, because all the difficulties that we have, I just said on the question before, working remotely gives us like so many challenges, and for all of those we have to be more flexible to try to understand. For an example of the accent, if someone doesn't understand us, we should be more flexible to try to speak some different words or in a different way, or just repeat the same thing again slowly. And also flexible with the time because of the time zones and everything else. So I think it's all a matter of communication and flexibility. I think, I don't know, it's too how can I say? Here is a challenge for me. I'm trying to say a word and I don't know how to say it, but it's too vague. But I think flexibility covers a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I would absolutely agree. To me, answering this question, I think what is the best way? First of all, you need to be willing to adapt to the challenge. I mean, unless you want, you know, to adapt to the challenge, it's not going to happen. You need to be willing, you know, to be loyal to other people, to be loyal, you know, to their gaps, maybe, you know, in language barrier whatsoever. So to me, it was I feel myself blessed, honestly, you know, when I moved here and I surrounded myself with people from different countries. Honestly, until now, I have, I think, only one Ukrainian friend here. I find it really helpful because all my other friends, you know, from around the globe. And that would really help me to adapt, because it's kind of, you know, you're making conscious choice to interact with people from different cultures. You are making conscious choice, you know, to understand them better, to listen to them, to talk to them. to learn more about them. So to me, the best way to adapt to all these kind of challenges is just to give people a chance to, to give a try to understand them, not just be judgmental, because a lot of people, falling into judgment, saying like, oh, like this person doesn't speak English, so that's it, I give up. To me, it's not the solution. To me, if you really want, to adapt to this challenge, you really need to make an effort.
Yeah. I like
What I
that.
think.
I like that you said like the willingness. You have to have the willingness. Like I think that's really important. I'm glad you actually said that because I wouldn't have thought of that as an answer to this question. But you have to have the open mind and the willingness to be able to even adapt to the challenges. Because some people, might just say like, no, it's too hard. I can't deal with it. The accent's too hard. I know there's some accents where like Larissa's told me like she needs to close her eyes on the meetings and just kind of listen to like what they're saying. Because it's a little harder sometimes, but you know what? It shows Larissa's willingness. She's finding a solution that helps her to adapt to the accents and what they're saying so that she can actually comprehend, what's being said. I definitely like that. I think that's a great point. I think another point too that I use because I've been very fortunate to be working in roles where I've been in global companies, so I'm used to emailing different countries every day. And so I think one thing for me is planning ahead. So I know when I start my workday in the morning, I need to get all of my emails out to Australia, to Israel, to India, to the Middle East, to Europe. I literally start on that side of the world, do all the emails, and then make my way back to the United States because I know the people I'm emailing in the United States can work with me on the same working hours, but I need to get those other responses out as soon as possible so that they will have it. Nadia, a lot of people don't know that the work week in the Middle East is Sunday to Thursday.
Oh, so, yeah, true.
A lot of people don't know that. I'm sure some people are like,
Yeah.
What? Oh my gosh. So that was really strange for me, but it's also harder when you're working with Middle Eastern companies because with the time change and the different working days, there's really only 3 days that you overlap with them, which makes it even harder, which I don't think a lot of people knew that. So it's definitely, you have to plan ahead for sure. And I also think transparency, just be transparent, I've talked to Larissa about, she's got amazing English. She sounds very American. I would not know that she's Brazilian. But
that's
obviously not all the words come to her as if they would come to me as a native English speaker. So I've told her, whenever she's doing a call and presenting in front of a client or doing a webinar, it's okay to say, just so you know, English isn't my first language, so that they understand. Obviously, you, Nadia, with your heavy of an accent, we understand English isn't your first language. So something like that isn't necessary to say or disclaim ahead of time. But with Larissa, she sounds very American and very westernized that I would assume she's American. And then I would wonder, why is she not getting this word right? So also just being transparent, it's okay to say, hey, English is not my first language, so that people understand. I mean, it's a global economy. We're used to this.
Yeah. I have to say that some cultures are more difficult to adapt to those challenges because, like in Brazil, which was nice to remember that it is easier for me to work with Ray because I lived in the United States and I'm actually very logical, and Brazilians are very sentimental. It's just a culture, but it's harder to be very honest because if you're very honest, you're being rude. It's, for me, it doesn't make sense. I always have had some difficulties, even inside my country. But that's when it comes to flexibility. People just have to understand what people are saying. It's not, to offend. It's just an information. And yeah.
Nadia, anything else you want to add, or we can move on?
We can move on, I guess.
All right. We will go to tell Meme about it. This one, I still have to think about this. You guys have the same problem?
From time to time, sure, yeah.
When we used to have summertime, it got us confused sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. All right, next question. So what are some of the ways to maintain productivity with the challenges that we have been discussing? So obviously productivity is really hard when people are working the R word. So what are some ways that you would recommend for people to maintain that, the productivity?
Well, I can start, I guess. To me, I guess it's like some points which we covered before. It's to keep an open mind, because in order to be productive, you need to be ready for certain challenges. Languages, time zones, nationalities, cultures. It's all about, maintaining those kind of relationship and building them stronger in order to come up with a synergy, let's say, when it comes to certain points. So to me, it's really important here to maintain connection with people, talk to each other, build trust, constantly staying in touch, asking questions, as much questions as possible. To me, there are no such thing as stupid question, let's say. I mean, if something comes up to my mind, I will ask. And this is how, to me, you can really maintain productivity.
I like that.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's very important to say trust. I haven't that in mind, but it's very obvious because working remotely, even in my own country, my teams, everyone is working from home. So we have to have trust to know how your team is doing, what are they accomplishing, and also with that, also keep very tight communication, but not as much as it would it would come in front of your work. Not to difficult your work, but to easy up the communication, for all of your team to know what you're doing, what's going on. If you have difficulties, asking questions, of course, always. I agree. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because if it's a question the person doesn't know, so they are to ask and to clarify.
Yeah. I would kind of bubble everything that you guys have just said under like aligning expectations, just setting clear your expectations and talking about them. What are your expectations? What are mine? When should this be delivered? I work with Larissa, and so sometimes I'm like, hey, can you get this done? And then sometimes I'm like, hey, can you do this by this certain day and this certain time, because I need it back. And unless I communicated that to her, she might not deliver things on time, but it's not her fault if I don't give her my expectations of when I need it back, because there's a lot of things that we bounce back and forth. I'll do something, then she'll do something on it, then I have to do something more, and it's just, we have to keep communicating and aligning our expectations together. And I definitely think that is a great way to maintain productivity.
I would agree, and I also think like COVID-19 also taught us to be more, productive. At least to me, of course, there were a lot of concerns when we were asked to work from home. It was always like in my mind, oh my gosh, how is it going to happen? It's one thing, then you are having working hours in the office and you come and everyone sees what you do. But how is it going to be measured when you're at home? And what I realized, it's not about the location from where you work. It's about the people you're working with. Again, it's about communication, because you're absolutely right. As soon as you have clear expectations, you have like the goal set, and you know what you need to deliver, and you are striving for that success. I think like it's all doable, and you can be productive from regardless where you are.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing, I actually was talking to my superior about working more from home before COVID happened, just because my previous role, I worked 100% from home. So it was an adjustment for me to have to get up and get dressed and go to an office every day. But, one thing that I thought about, I was thinking, am I more productive at home? And I actually realized I am, because it's no secret, we all take breaks. At work, when I take a break, I'll go to Instagram or Facebook or read the news, and then I'll go on this tangent, and then I'll go on this tangent, and then I'll go on this tangent on my phone. You know how it is when you get carried away on your phone. And instead of a 5-minute break, I'd end up getting lost for 30 minutes in my phone. Now, when I work from home, I'm more productive because I take isolated breaks. I'll get some tasks done with work, then I'll change the laundry. Then I'll do a little work, then I'll empty the dishwasher. Then I'll do a little work, then I'll walk the dog. So I'm doing more isolated breaks, and I'm more productive with my time, because at work you can't do these things you can't do things from home while at work. And this actually, I would feel better at night when I go to sleep, because not only would I be getting things done during the workday for my job, but I'd also be getting things done at home, which would make me feel better about myself, and then I'd be more motivated the next day.
Yeah,
And there's also an opposite situation, which is for some people it's easier when they're in the office and there is this break because your friends or colleagues ask you to to have some water with you at the coffee, and then at home, like I experienced that the opposite. I was like, I have to finish this, and like anxiety and everything, and you actually have to respect yourself and your time and your body just to give yourself a break and then come back to work. So there's two different ways, and I think if you you're giving your attention to your whole attention, depending on which person, of course, to work or any other activity, of course, you're to fix that and you just can't finish. You have to just take a little break and go back to what you were doing, then you meet productivity because you'll be more clean, more relaxed.
Yep, for sure. Yep, there's a lot of great things that you can do, and it's just about thinking about it, strategizing, and being willing to. I love that you said that, Nadia. That was great. Awesome. All right, let's move on to tell me about it. I don't know if you guys remember Napoleon Dynamite, but this was a great one. So this is actually a line from the movie. So yeah, guess you can say things are getting pretty serious. Great movie. Great movie. Oh man. All right, final question. How is it best to minimize misunderstandings caused by cultural differences? Larissa or Nadia, whoever wants to start, actually. Jump in.
I don't know, like I feel like I have a lot to say. Larissa, do you want to start?
Oh, well, I think here we're just wrapping up everything that we said because we can say about communication, we have to be flexible and willing to do different in different ways. I think something that I really I always do, even when I'm speaking Portuguese, which is my first language, inside my my office with the team, is there can be misunderstandings. So even if we're locally, doesn't mean remotely, but to ask again, or if someone is giving you some points about something or giving some decisions, you can just say it again so that people I always do that and really works, because if I understand wrong and if I say something and the person says no, that's not what you, and then they repeat again, and it can go back and forth, like go on and on until a point is made, people meet the same understanding. I think that's very practical. It's something that I do a lot, and it's very useful.
Nadia?
Yeah, would absolutely agree. To me, unless you understand the culture, like you will avoid then a lot of misunderstanding, right? So I really benefit from being here in Dubai and working with all these different cultures. Let's say like in my team, I would have so many nationalities and everyone would take the same phrase, I would say, in a different way. And I faced that a lot. Yes, someone would be smiling and like trying to build that kind of interaction, asking questions, and someone would kind of get offended from the same phrase. Yeah, I will say it with the same tone voice, like the same way, but it will be perceived in a different way from people I'm interacting with. So I would say it's about trying to understand the cultures better, trying to know people better. And if we're talking about work environment, again, trying to know each other better, right? Because apart from the culture, there are some personal things maybe connected with the culture, which can make things a bit more complicated when you are in a working environment. So what I always do when I have a new team member, let's say, I'm trying to know this person better. I'm trying to know what person likes or dislikes. So it helps to build that kind of bridge and to build that kind of relationship where we, like, both of us benefit, let's say, right? The same about me. A lot of people misunderstand my culture or my habits. You know, what is normal to me, let's say, it will be not normal for others. So it's also, I feel sometimes like I need to explain myself in a good way, not to justify myself, but just if I see that there is kind of boundaries, you know, and something is not going through, I'm always trying to have that kind of open conversation. I don't know, one-on-one, having a tea, just to try to understand how to build that kind of relationship where we can avoid misunderstanding. Because I mean, we are human beings. It will be always there, I guess. But it's up to us how we you know, treat these kind of situations. To me, honestly, I'm constantly facing, let's say, someone texts, especially on WhatsApp, right? If it's communication, and I see, obviously, it's here also. It's not people's first language, English. So, and the phrase sometimes doesn't make any sense. And after a couple of them asking, it still doesn't make sense, right? So you're really trying, like, you know, to find the way, like via the call or like involving maybe another person, you know, who speaks the same language, just to understand that person better, to give the right guidance, you know, to, like, not to let anyone down, you know, not to make anyone feel like, okay, like, you know, I give up on you and like I don't care anymore. So that's not the solution for me.
I'm over here laughing because I'm thinking of last week or 2 weeks ago, Larissa, when I was just not getting what you were saying about the script. And I said, let's save this for whenever Leo can help explain it. I told her, I said, maybe you can explain it to Leo in Portuguese, and then maybe he can explain it to me better in English, because I was just not getting the concept of what she was explaining, even though she was explaining it great. I just wasn't grasping it. So that's a great point. I would say, don't be afraid to say you don't understand. I mean, me and her went back and forth for 10 minutes over typing. I think we even did a call. She tried to explain it to me over call. I still wasn't getting it. I'm like, Larissa, I think we need to bring in a third person. So we saved it. We benched that topic for the rest of the day until the next day, whenever we could have someone else who could help explain it. And then I got a better grasp of it. I would also say too, there's some times where, you know, Larissa and I are chatting over Teams and things aren't understood. And then all of a sudden, you know, a great way is just to jump on a call. We jump on calls all the time with each other. They don't have to be scheduled. They don't have to be planned. They don't have to be formal. Sometimes we've had calls that are under 60 seconds just to clarify, you know, what exactly were you meaning? Okay, got it. Okay, cool. And then we hang up and we continue on with our work day. So just don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say you don't understand. Don't be afraid to clarify, because like we talked about before, all of this, if you don't clarify, goes to miscommunication, and miscommunication can cost you your job. It can cost the company money. It can, you know, miscommunication can cause a disaster of things, especially if it's something that's in a pecking order and this one thing's wrong, then everything else after that's going to be wrong. It's really dangerous to play with miscommunication. So yeah, it's always good to clarify, just because you never know what you could be hearing wrong or seeing wrong, and then what can come from that. So that's definitely a good point for sure.
Yeah, I want to add that it's also it's very hard when because we're working remotely, we're always writing. Most of the times we are writing to each other, right? So messages can be misunderstood, misinterpreted. How can I say it?
Misinterpreted.
Yes, that's. And like, we shouldn't take things too serious, because maybe you can read in some other tone, you know, that can lead to other different. and don't try to interpretate what people are writing to you also.
Yep. Communication is key.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we definitely have answered that. Whoop. Let's go to Tell Meme About It. This is
That is so funny. Because
This is a
people
big
can
one.
get so furious about, people pointing out the problems of your culture. You're like, don't say that. Only I can say that.
I'm different from you, Larissa. I'm different from you, Nadia, but we also have a lot of things in common too. So it's diversity is great, but you also have to, whenever there is diversity and you feel like there's too many differences because of that, you have to kind of take a step back and remember that at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are in common that bring us together. So I love this one. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we had some great questions. We had some great answers. I feel like we provided a lot of good insight and hopefully some of our own personal experiences. I just want to remind you that every time that we said the hot word, we made a donation. We will make a donation for the total amount to the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund. We're actually very happy, obviously, to support a great cause in the race to find an effective vaccine for COVID-19 so that we can all meet together for a happy hour in person. Obviously, we can't, us girls, because we're on different continents, but with our friends locally. And then just lastly, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, any feedback, have any themes or anything that you want to suggest to us, please reach out to us at askphh@prosperiglobal.com. We're happy to receive that, and we're here for you, and hopefully you enjoyed this today. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Nadia, and thank you, Larissa. Cheers, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.